Yes, good morning. We are going to start with the next aspect of this topic that today we are going to complete our entire syllabus by completing the three aspects of this topic, that is physical nature of the precipitate. Secondly, we are going to study the difference between the co-precipitation, post-precipitation, and use of organic precipitants in gravimetric analysis. Before going to start with all these three aspects of this topic, I would like to recall some points of interest that we have already studied in the last week. We have studied the optimum conditions for the effective precipitation. While studying the optimum conditions for the effective precipitation, we have listed some 8 to 9 optimum conditions, because of which the gravimetric analysis, the results of which are very much fruitful. In this regard, we have seen the first optimum condition is that the solution from which the precipitation is to be carried out, that solution should be hot. The first very important point, the solution should be very hot. Secondly, the optimum condition is that while carrying out the precipitation from the solution should be very dilute. So effective precipitation can be brought about only when the solution is dilute. For example, if we are doing barium as barium sulfate gravimetric estimation, then the solution of barium chloride should be very dilute. Then and then barium sulfate precipitate that is obtained is in quantitative manner. This is second condition. First condition is the solution should be hot. Secondly, the solution should be dilute. Third, the precipitant or precipitating reagent that should be added very very slowly and with vigorous stirring. This is also very important for effective precipitation. Fourth condition is that the precipitation should be carried out in presence of a suitable reagent that induces the process of precipitation. For example, in barium gravimetric, the suitable precipitating reagent is a sulfuric acid. In place of sulfuric acid, if we use another optional precipitating reagent, then barium ions will not be precipitated. So, a selective precipitant or precipitating reagent that should be chosen during the course of a gravimetric analysis. Then the precipitant or precipitating reagent that we have chosen so as to have a quantitative precipitation, that precipitating reagent should be added in slight excess so as to have maximum precipitation. If the quantity of precipitating reagent is less, then the results may go wrong, and hence in order to have effective precipitation, the precipitating reagent should be added in slight excess. Then after this, the next optimum condition is that the precipitate should be washed with a suitable washing solution. For example, in barium gravimetric estimation, hot water works as a washing solution, or in carrying out iron gravimetric analysis, 1% ammonium nitrate, that is hot ammonium nitrate, is used as a washing solution. So after the formation of a precipitate, the precipitate should be washed thoroughly by using a suitable washing solution. Now, if the precipitate, if it is contaminated, or if some foreign material that is adheres to the precipitate, then in order to remove such contamination, or in order to remove the impurities which are associated with the precipitate, we have to digest the precipitate very well. Digestion is a process of maturing the precipitate, or what we call as an aging of precipitate or recrystallization of precipitate, or it is also known as the Oswald's ripening process. So these are the conditions, that is optimum conditions for the effective precipitation. Now we shall proceed further with the next aspect of this topic today, is that we have to see what is the physical forms or physical nature of the precipitate. As we know, gravimetric analysis is a process of quantitative analysis technique where we are concerned with the weight of the analyte or weight of the substances under analysis, that is known as the analyte. In gravimetry, as we are aware, the solubility of a precipitate has much importance as it helps to separate the solid from the solution, and the precipitate thus obtained, which is separated from the solution in pure form, that should be very carefully handled till we get the results at the end. Now, in addition to this, the purity of a precipitate, that also matters, because if some by human activity, if some impurities that get mixed with the precipitate, then the results may go wrong. So the purity of a precipitate thus obtained is also very important. So the purity, the filtration, washing of the precipitate are also of having the equal importance. In general, all this depends upon the size of precipitate particle. So I would like to give much more emphasis on the size of precipitate during the gravimetric analysis, because if the size of precipitate, if it is very small, then sometimes there is a possibility that the small size particles of the precipitate, they may pass through the filtering medium, and hence particle size that matters. So with regard to the physical nature of precipitate, we have to classify the physical forms of the precipitate in three important categories. Just see which are those. The physical forms, as we have seen, that the precipitate in this regard, the precipitates are classified into three different physical forms. You should know that the precipitate, the physical nature of the precipitate, that occurs in three different forms. Now, the first is the crystalline precipitate. First form is a crystalline precipitate. Second form is known as Kerdi precipitate. And third physical form is known as the gelatinous precipitate. So, with regard to the physical forms, the precipitates may be classified or they may be fall in three different forms: a crystalline precipitate, a Kerdi precipitate, and a gelatinous precipitate. Now, what are these three different types? If we look at the first, that is the crystalline precipitate. What is this crystalline precipitate? The crystalline precipitate have the largest particle size. Crystalline precipitate have largest particle size. That means the size of these precipitate particles are very large enough. That means it is having the size of about 10 raised to minus 6 to 10 raised to minus 9 meters. So such a large size particles of crystalline precipitate, 10 raised to 6 to 10 raised to 5, it is not 9, it is 5 meters. So such a large size particles are exhibited in crystalline precipitate. Because these precipitates are very large in size, hence we can see these precipitate through our naked eyes. These precipitates are relatively pure and are very easy to filter. This is also very important. These precipitate particles are pure and they are very easy to filter, and hence because the particle size of such precipitate is large enough, we can see through our naked eyes, and they are very pure and easy to filter because the particle size is very large enough. Now, the crystal structure of such precipitates is quite visible to eye, as just now I have mentioned. For example, the familiar examples of such types of precipitate that you have carried out last time, the gravimetric analysis of barium as barium sulfate. This is the best example of crystalline precipitate where all these facts are true. Another example is a calcium oxalate, CaC2O4. So calcium oxalate, calcium chloride solution, if it is given to you, then some calculated quantity of precipitating reagents such as oxalic acid, when it is added, then oxalic acid quantitative precipitates the calcium from the solution in the form of a calcium oxalate, which is also white in color, that is a crystalline in nature. Or another precipitate is magnesium ammonium phosphate, MgNH4PO4. This is also one of the good example of crystalline precipitate. So while giving the explanation for crystalline type of precipitate, you should bear in mind that crystalline precipitates have very larger particle size of the order of 10 raised to minus 6 to 10 raised to minus 5 meters, the size of which is very large enough that we can see through our naked eyes. They are obtained in very pure form and they are very easy to filter. So all these facts are true for crystalline precipitate. Now come to the second type is a Kerdi precipitate. Now what are these Kerdi precipitates? The Kerdi precipitates are those which are formed as a colloidal suspension. That means the particles of these Kerdi precipitate are always in the form of suspended particles in the mother liquor. The particle size of these are in the colloidal state. The particle size of Kerdi precipitates is much more smaller than the crystalline precipitate. For example, it is of the order of 10 to minus 9 to 10 to minus 6. So in this range, the particle size of Kerdi precipitates that falls. This particle size is not desired in precipitation since the particles are very small enough, they may pass through the filtering medium, and hence the digestion process is given so as to make the precipitate particles into easily filterable form. Such precipitates are digested under suitable conditions. The best known examples of such type, that is Kerdi type of precipitates, are silver precipitate, that is silver iodide or silver chloride or silver bromide. These are the best examples for the Kerdi precipitates because after digestion they can form the larger flocks which are very easy to filter. Or mercurous chloride, Hg2Cl2 is known as a mercurous chloride and HgCl2 is known as a mercury chloride. Here mercury is having lower oxidation state as +1. So these are the facts which are true for the Kerdi precipitate. Now we shall move to the third type, is known as the gelatinous precipitate. Now what is this gelatinous precipitate? The amorphous or the gelatinous, the amorphous or the gelatinous precipitates have the particle size which is also smaller than the colloidal particles that we already studied in the second part, that is in Kerdi precipitate. This size that falls in between 10 raised to minus 9 to 10 raised to minus 10 meters. So very small size particles are observed in gelatinous type of precipitate. Such precipitates are very fine. That means they are very fine. There is a possibility that they may pass through filtering medium and they easily pass through any filtering media. These precipitates are often can carry often indefinite amount of water. Perhaps you remember that ferric hydroxide precipitate that is very gelatinous. It is obtained in a bulky mass, and because it is obtained in a bulky mass and hence it retains indefinite amount of water, and hence because of this particular characteristic feature all gelatinous precipitates are also called as precipitates of hydroxides. For example, the best known example under this category is aluminum hydroxide, ferric hydroxide, FeOH thrice, and other example that is a chromium hydroxide. This is aluminum hydroxide which is white in color. Ferric hydroxide is a reddish brown in color, and chromium hydroxide this color of which is a bluish green in color. So from the color of the precipitate one can identify which metal ion that is precipitated from the solution just by observing the colors of all these precipitates. So we have discussed here that there are three different physical forms of the precipitate, but now the question arises how to remember these three different types. So I am going to give you some ideas that how to remember these three types in a nutshell. As we know that you should look carefully that the first type that we have observed is a crystalline precipitate. Second type that we have observed is a Kurdi precipitate, and third is known as the gelatinous precipitate. Now, the first point under crystalline precipitate, that these crystalline precipitates they are having a largest particle size of the order of 10 is to minus 6 to 10 is to minus 5 meters. The first point under Kurdi precipitate, these particles of such precipitates are very small as we have seen, and they are ranging from 10 is to minus 9 to 10 is to minus 6 meters. And the first point under gelatinous precipitate, the particle size is again very small as compared to the Kurdi precipitate, while the particle size that ranges from 10 is to minus 9 to 10 is to minus 10 meters. So this is the first point in these three categories. From this it is observed that crystalline precipitate particles are large enough. Second point is that the crystalline precipitates are obtained in a very pure condition and they are very easy to filter. They are very easy to filter. The second point under Kurdi precipitate, that because small size is there and hence they are very difficult to filter. Why? Because they may pass through the filtering medium. And here the second point under gelatinous precipitate, they are very fine particles and they may pass through the filtering media or filtering medium. So this is regard to the size and the purity. The third point, crystalline precipitates are very easy to see. That means they are visible to eye because larger particle size. Third point, that digestion is a must or digestion is necessary for all Kurdi precipitates. After digestion, they Kurdi precipitate they form the flocks which are very easy to filter, and this point should be remembered. This easy filtration is possible for Kurdi precipitate only when digestion is carried out. So digestion brings about the precipitate into easily filterable form. And third point under gelatinous precipitate, these precipitates carry indefinite amount of water. They carry indefinite amount of water and hence called hydrous oxides. Then the fourth, that we have to give certain examples. Here we have seen the example of barium sulfate, then calcium CaC2O4, or magnesium ammonium phosphate. Here silver halides AgI, AgCl, AgBr, or one more example, that is mercurous chloride Hg2Cl2. And here the examples are that aluminum hydroxide, another example ferric hydroxide and chromium hydroxide. So here we have enlisted all the three precipitates in one particular format. So this is very easy that we can remember all these points in a nutshell. So if you are asked during the exam that discuss the physical nature of the precipitate, then you have to write the answer that the physical forms of precipitate fall or categorized into three different forms: crystalline precipitate, curdy precipitate, and the gelatinous precipitate. And you have to enlist all these points one by one so that it is very easy for the clear understanding of the point. So this is all about the physical nature of the precipitate. We shall proceed further with the next aspect of this topic, that is known as the concept of co-precipitation and post-precipitation. Now these two words I think you have heard very first time, because the words are very difficult to understand. So co-precipitation and another is a post-precipitation. Now what are these two different terms known as a co-precipitation or post-precipitation? During gravimetric estimation of an analyte, these two processes, they also accompanied by the main precipitation. So here if we look at the first term, that is a co-precipitation, then it can be defined as, it can be defined as, it is the process. Co-precipitation is nothing but it is a process by which, it is a process by which soluble impurities, what is the soluble impurities? Those impurities which are already present in the solution itself, known as a soluble impurities which are in dissolved condition. The process by which soluble impurities become incorporated. Incorporated means they get mixed with the main precipitate. They get incorporated into the main precipitate at the time of its formation is known as co-precipitation. So co-precipitation is nothing but the addition of impurities to the main precipitate during the process of precipitation is known as the co-precipitation, or the precipitation of the impurities with the main precipitate is known as a co-precipitation. That means here two different phenomena takes place. That is the first formation of a main precipitate, and second the formation of a precipitate of impurity. So these two processes, they take place simultaneously. This is known as the co-precipitation, the precipitation of impurities with the main precipitation is known as the co-precipitation. So this is how we can define the process of co-precipitation. But here if we see an example, then this is barium sulfate, which is a main precipitate, barium sulfate. During the formation of this barium sulfate, if if chloride impurities are also there, then our main precipitate is barium sulfate. Along with the impurities, they also get precipitated. So this is the main precipitate, and these are the soluble impurities. Those also get mixed with the precipitate. This is the main precipitate. This phenomenon is known as the co-precipitation. So the process by which the soluble impurities, they get incorporated into the main precipitate at the time of its formation is known as the co-precipitation, or in brief, co-precipitation is the contamination of the main precipitate by the soluble impurities which are present in the solution, that is known as the co-precipitation. Now, sometimes a long question may be asked on this co-precipitation, that how co-precipitation that takes place. So it occur due to four different types of mechanisms. You should remember that a co-precipitation that occurs because of four different mechanisms. Which are those? First mechanism is known as the inclusion mechanism. Second mechanism is known as the occlusion mechanism. These words are rather new to you, so you should listen very carefully. Inclusion, occlusion. Third is a mechanical. Third is a mechanical entrapment. This is a third mechanism, and fourth mechanism is a surface adsorption. So the co-precipitation, that is the precipitation of impurities with main precipitate, this occurs either of, by either of these mechanisms. Either the impurities, they get mixed with the main precipitate with the inclusion mechanism, or the impurities may get mixed with the occlusion type of mechanism, or the impurities may get mixed with the help of the mechanical entrapment, or the fourth is the impurities that get mixed with the main precipitate with surface adsorption. So these are the four mechanisms, either of these mechanism that may take place during the formation of the main precipitate. Now I would like to give the details of this inclusion, occlusion, mechanical entrapment, and surface adsorption. Now, what are these all these four phenomena that we have to enlist here? But only less than 2 minutes are left. So I would like to conclude here our first session. We have to join this session again by clicking the same link. We shall join again after 2 minutes. So thank you. We shall continue with clicking the same link. Thank you very much. All students should join immediately.